I'm Zach Rasinger. Welcome to 1031 Exchange. Looking forward to talking to these fine gentlemen here who are the leading 1031 experts in the country. We've got some power-packed knowledge and energy coming here directly from Greg Lehrman and Mike Bowen. Both are titans of industry, and we're looking forward to learning more about the 1031 Exchange. Let's hear it. Where are you guys from? Drop it in the sidebar. Tell us where you're coming in from today. We've got an audience from all over the world. These webinars have been impactful across the commercial real estate industry, both for brokers, agents, owners, investors, across the board. So we look forward to learning more from Greg and Mike. Let's go ahead and just crack it off here. Let's start with you, Greg. Can you tell us a little bit more about who you are and explain to us what you're going to talk about today?
Yeah, I'm Greg Lehrman. I'm someone that got an accounting degree and a law degree in the 80s and started practicing law. And then I got in the title business. And then I found out about how amazing 1031s are. And in 94, I got the chance to jump in this area. And I haven't looked back. For the last 27 and a half years, I've spent my full time helping people sell real estate without paying taxes. So that's what I do, and can't wait to share information with people today.
So you're both an attorney, you've worked in accounting and in real estate, and they all come together right in the 1031. In the sidebar, guys, tell us what professions you're in right now, where you're coming from. Are you an investor? Are you a developer? Are you a broker? Are you an agent? And again, this is an interactive session. So with this live webinar, enter in the sidebar, tell us more about you. And this is where connections are made in the sidebar. So enter in any of your information. If you want to share this webinar with anybody, we'd love for you to do that. Get the information out there. You can drop this in any of your social channels, whether that's LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and of course, all of our friends in LinkedIn. Hello, hello, hello. Mike, can you tell us a little bit more about you? And then we'll jump right into Greg's presentation.
Yeah. So my name is Mike Bowen. I own a company called Ranger Land and Minerals out here in Dallas. We're an acquisition group, where our skill set really lies in the ability to, identify, evaluate, negotiate, and acquire, mineral interests, producing mineral interests, primarily in West Texas, Permian Basin is really where we've been focused on for the last, year and a half, 2 years now. But, what we try to do when it comes time to divest is try to provide a service and help people with their 1031 exchanges. A lot of times we're approached by people who are looking for alternatives to brick and mortar, which obviously this is, or they're just having a hard time finding something, and they're pigeonholed into a time frame where they just can't get done what they need to get done. And we can be a safety net for people, adding additional identifications to the exchange, or give you some options that that are kind of outside the traditional brick and mortar style of replacement property.
It looks like we've got a lot of oil and gas people chiming in right now. Not only people that are actually working in the industry today, but also people that are asking, is oil going up? Is it going down? Where is it going? So Mike, we'll get into that with you in your presentation. I think our audience is going to have a lot of questions for you and how you're able to help mitigate taxes using 1031 and leveraging the current day situation where we're just seeing a big boom in national U.S. production of oil. And as the prices go up, everybody loves dividends. So it's sort of a dual edge, or a dual-edged sword, I guess, to say that as prices go up, we'll see what happens and what that means to your dividend coming in through 1031 exchange or your dividend. So Greg, if you want, let's just, let's give them all a basis here. Tell them a little bit more about the 1031. You have a deck, correct, that you're going to present off here?
Yeah, you bet.
Man, you are tech savvy. Look at that. Holy moly.
Look at that. Hot dog.
Not only an attorney, not only one of the best heavy hitters in the country for 1031 exchanges, but this guy can navigate PowerPoint like no other. You must have been an accountant. I can tell already.
Yeah, I didn't have the personality to be an accountant, so I became a 1031 guy. Let's see. Let me give the whole thing in a nutshell, if you like, Zach.
That'd be great.
So 101 years ago, this year, in 1921, farmers brought this basic concept to Congress This is so much simpler than almost anybody realizes. Farmers went to Congress and said, look, if we've been farming land for a long time and now it's gone up in value and we can sell a farm and buy a more expensive farm, that would be better for our family. It'd be better for the people we hire. It'd be better for the realtors, the title companies, the seed people. But if you're going to tax us on our gain, we can't pay taxes with dirt. If we're selling dirt and buying dirt, we can't pay taxes. So duh. Yeah, Congress said, hey, we want people to sell and buy real estate. It creates jobs. So they put in the code in 1921, this code section, it's section 1031, and it's only based off of 3 words: like, kind, and exchange, and qualified intermediary. So anybody that's taking notes to trying to just keep this simple on a piece of paper, you just need to know what like, kind means, and exchange and qualified intermediary. Having said that, you need to realize that none of those words mean what they say. Okay, so a big reason for all the misconceptions about 1031s is these words have a different meaning than they have in the English language would apply to anything else. It's a foreign language. So specifically, like, kind, and exchange are about 1 billion times better than they sound. So
a
when
billion
you learn
times, all right.
about
I mean,
1 billion,
hey,
maybe
look,
trillion.
we're gonna, here's a challenge for our audience here. If you know what any of those 3 terms are, drop in the sidebar if you have ever heard of those terms, or if you have a guess of what those terms mean, before we have the man, Greg Lerman, tell us right now, what do those 3 terms mean?
That is great. So like I said, like, kind, and exchange, yeah, they're a lot better than they sound. And QI, qualified intermediary, is a lot worse than it sounds. So
All right.
you want to learn what the first 2 words means, because that opens up opportunities. And then you need to learn what the 3rd word means. Otherwise, you could lose everything you're about to gain. So that's the point of my whole presentation, is to dig deeper into those words and explain what I mean. I already gave you my background, and I'm with Stewart Title's 1031 company. We've done over 200,000 exchanges. So what Congress put into the code is no gain or loss shall be recognized. The word recognized means taxed. And they say, we're not going to tax you if you do what we call an exchange of what we call like, kind property. It's not an exchange. It's not like, kind property. Now, why would you do this? So many reasons. Tax deferral. Usually, I'd say at least 9 times out of 10, it's better to pay taxes later than it is now, because the longer you can defer paying taxes, the more time value of money, that you're benefiting from. It's just free use of the money for as long as you defer. On top of that, many people defer their whole life and they never pay the tax. And when they die, their heirs get a new basis and it goes away forever. The only time it's not good to
we have in the sidebar,
Yeah.
It says step up in basis. Is that what that is? A step up in basis?
Step up in basis.
Okay.
Meaning, when you pass away, any property you leave in your estate for your heirs, they literally get to pretend they wrote a check for what the property is worth when they inherit it. So the basis is your cost basis, and it steps up. So if they sell it for what they inherited it for, they don't have a gain. They don't pay taxes. And then leverage, every dollar you defer, that adds to your down payment into the next properties. So if you're putting 25% down into the next property, every dollar you defer is multiplied by 4 in terms of how much it increases your buying power. You can diversify. That's a big thing we're going to hit on today, is the fact that you can diversify so much greater than most people realize, because that word like, kind sounds restrictive, and it's not restrictive hardly at all. So we have
a question in the comment on the side, which is what's the quote from Warren Buffett, lever then die, or something like that, where you're able to pass on through this exact one of several ways, which is through the 1031 exchange and the step up in basis, that as you pass the land or buildings or any commercial real estate down to your heirs, that step up in basis is going to alleviate them of most or all of those taxes. Is that what he's referring to?
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then you can consolidate. If you own a bunch of rentals and you don't want to manage that many properties, This is a perfect avenue for selling a bunch of single family rentals and buying an apartment complex. Cash flow is huge. These are all huge. You could sell land and buy income producing real estate, brick and mortar, or minerals. Deloitte says about every year, that CPA firm Deloitte used to be Deloitte and Touche. They say about every year, about 35% of all raw land sales are 1031s. Some of those people use that money to buy more real estate. More land, and others put it into cash flowing properties. I had a young man that sold a property in Denton. He paid $100,000 for it, and a couple years later, it was worth $250,000. And he had an 18-year-old about to go to college. So this Section 1031 allowed him to sell that piece of dirt for $250,000 that he only paid $100,000 for, and he put 50% down into $500,000 worth of rentals, and immediately started getting monthly cash flow that helped send his son to college. Management relief, another big part of our talk today is management relief. You can.
We've got somebody in the sidebar that's asking about where their long lost father is to drop off some of this real estate for them to go to college, or in this case to buy a Ferrari. But whatever.
Absolutely.
All right. So okay.
That's right. And it's true that as beneficial as this is for people, it's most beneficial for your heirs, but you benefit too while you're alive. So anyway, management relief, because you can sell. Here's the way you benefit while you're alive. You can sell high maintenance real estate, and you can buy low maintenance real estate and still not pay taxes. And in many cases, hugely increase your cash flow, because you can. I'm going to go over like kind in a minute, and it'll show how you can sell rentals and apartments, and you can buy either a triple net lease property like a Walgreens, or a fractional interest in a building called a DST, or oil and gas, triple net lease minerals, oil and gas royalties that Michael will talk about. And estate planning, we already talked about that, but we talked about the step up in basis. Not only can you just what we call you swap till you drop, and you build up a whole lot more property, and then your heirs get to step up. But on top of that, when you go from high maintenance to low maintenance, typically it's into a property that can be subdivided easier. So you can divide it up. I had an 86-year-old farmer that had been farming his whole life and just making a real average farmer's income. He was north of Austin. And all of a sudden, he's 86 years old. He's still on a tractor. And he's got 5 grown kids, and 2 of them are deadbeats and 3 of them aren't. And even if they all were great, he was worried about leaving one property to 5 heirs. How often are 5 people going to agree on when to sell a property, especially if it's the family farm? Well, a developer offers him $5 million for his dirt. He gets off his tractor, he sells the dirt for $5 million. He doesn't have to work a day in his life, and he put it some into DSTs and some into royalties. And overnight, he went from a farmer's income to $45,000 a month income, and he gets to leave 20% of the DSTs and the minerals to each of his 5 heirs, and they never have to talk to each other. Beautiful. So that's
so it sounds like, am I correct here? Oh, great. I love the numbers. I got my calculator out. Everybody, if you have your calculator, really, our audience loves numbers. So if you have a calculator, pull it on out here. Greg's about to go through some numbers for you. Can you, there's a question on the sidebar. It's asking about appreciation versus change in use, or as you were saying, it goes from farmland to now a developer's interested in it because zoning has changed. Is it only an appreciation, or is it a change in use, or when is this? Because obviously if you buy something, it doesn't appreciate. You can still sell it, obviously, but the most benefit is coming mostly from the appreciation of real estate, which as we all know, is why we're in this commercial real estate game, because land over time, or real estate over time, as they say, God's not making any more dirt. Over time, as particularly around cities, Mike or Greg, you and I experience this all the time here in Austin. Things are appreciating like crazy right now. Is that where most of the benefit is gained, or is it? Am I correct in that?
Now, the benefit is you can sell any kind of business or investment real estate that I'm going to go over after the numbers, and buy any other business or investment real estate. What the other person is going to do is irrelevant to your tax benefit.
Okay.
The change in use affects rollback taxes. You know, that's something
Right.
negotiated between the seller and the buyer. That's a different issue in how y'all negotiate that.
Right.
And,
Okay.
you know, that's rollback taxes. So that's a different deal.
Right.
Yeah. Otherwise, as a 1031 guy, you don't care what the other guy's going to do with their property.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So
Numbers.
here's
All right, man. I've got
Yeah.
the HP powered up here, man. So I'm ready to go through some calculations. If you have any questions in the sidebar for Greg here, drop those on the side. But yeah, let's jump into it. I love it.
Yeah, and usually I jump straight down to the bottom line because that's what most people care about. But since you love numbers, let's go
I
through
do.
all. Yes. So today's net sales price after closing costs is $1 million. And let's say they had 300,000 of depreciation recapture at 25% and 600,000 federal capital gain tax at 20%. Now, for some people, it's 15%. So the two federal capital gain rates are 15% or 20%.
Can you highlight for us? We've got a question in the sidebar about depreciation recapture. Can you give us an example what this means in this case here? Is this that they've? Well, go ahead and explain it. What depreciation recapture is.
So this first thing assumes that they're not doing a 1031.
Okay.
And so when you sell improved real estate that you've been depreciating the buildings on, well, when you sell that, if you don't do a 1031, okay, the capital gain rate that everybody talks about, that's just the rate on the appreciation. You also pay taxes on your depreciation at an even higher rate. So you can pay up to 28.8% tax on all the depreciation. That literally means what depreciation recapture means literally is all the depreciation write-offs you've ever enjoyed on this property. You basically got to pay that back. You pay that back at a 28.8% federal rate. And then some states have a state tax on top of that.
You've riled up the crowd in the sidebar. They're booing taxes. So I think you're talking to the right crowd here. Does not like paying taxes. Okay.
Yes. Now with a 1031, not only do you not pay the capital gain tax, you also don't pay the depreciation recapture unless you go from improved real estate to unimproved.
Okay.
So, but even if you go from improved to unimproved, you're still going to not pay any tax on the appreciation.
Okay.
You know, which is huge. And a lot of times that's by far the biggest.
Okay.
Yeah. And in this case, the poor soul lives in California. Well, there's a 13.3% tax, and that's so that's taxed at 119,000. So they would owe taxes of 348,900. So their after-tax equity is 651. So they netted $1 million after closing costs. If they pay taxes, they're only going to have 651 to reinvest. And so, but if they do a 1031 into improved real estate, they use the full $1 million. So what if they're putting 25% down? Well, if they don't do a 1031, their buying power is 2.6 million. If they do a 1031, their buying power is 4 million.
Wow.
Are people getting real excited now?
Hey, we're getting some cheers in the sidebar over here. People seem to like money. Yes, everybody does want to be a millionaire. I see that everybody's asking for how to become a millionaire. Well, I think we're learning right now.
They may be getting so excited they better turn off their camcorders. No, their webcams. Okay. So, because here's the beauty of the way that the word like kind is actually interpreted here. And it's, like I said, it's almost a foreign language. It's a lot better language. That is because everything that I can squeeze onto one slide.
Whoa, look at that. Yeah, on the side. Whoa, look at the PowerPoint skills on this guy.
Pro. All of this is like kind. See, that's a residential rental up there. When I practiced law.
Oh, wait. So residential. Okay. All right. I'm looking forward to hearing about that. Okay.
Yeah. I was in private practice before I got in the title business and then the 1031 business. I heard a little bit about 1031s. I made the same assumption that virtually everybody makes. I thought this was just for large commercial transactions. No, the most common 1031 in the US is selling one residential rental and being able to use that money to buy two of them instead of one and a half because you're not paying taxes. And so residential rentals, so residential real estate held for investment is like kind to multifamily, commercial, property in the city, property in the country.
Multifamily, there's a question. It's apartment buildings. Is that what multifamily is?
Multifamily apartments.
Great.
So yeah, if you have several rentals and you want to sell them and go into multifamily, you can do that. All of these are like kind.
Okay.
One guy said, this was 20 years ago. I was in Durant, Oklahoma, and this guy said, this self-taught millionaire, multimillionaire now. He said, Greg, would you just tell people like kind means if they like that kind to buy
it? Seems like a good philosophy to me. All right.
Love it. So people don't know this. I mean, obviously some people on this call do, but I mean, vast numbers of people that would hugely benefit from this topic just make the reasonable assumptions that are way too limiting. I have people that don't even think they're a real estate investor. They have a business, but they happen to be wise enough to own the real estate and they sell that business. Well, if they deed the land and buildings, they can buy anything on this page. They can buy residential rentals, multifamily, a farm, and minerals. They can buy, like I said, low maintenance. They don't have to do a thing. They can buy a Dollar General or a fractional interest in a building if it's done a certain way, or the income off of the oil wells. At the bottom, I have water. Some ranchers sell some of their water under a ranch, buy a whole nother ranch without paying taxes.
So are you telling me you can split out? I mean, I see a cell phone tower there and someone asks about air rights. Can you split out the air rights? Is that right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Absolutely. Any perpetual right, any easement that's perpetual, or if it's a leasehold estate, it has to have 30 years remaining to qualify as being as good as fee title. So yeah.
You are a super knowledgeable guy. I'm very impressed here, Greg. Yeah, throw your comments in the side if you've got questions for Greg. Yeah, sorry about that. Jump on in, man. I got a preview of something I like to see: oil and gas and mineral rights. All right.
Yeah,
all right.
I dive deeper into some of the issues that are the most surprising or the most detailed. So minerals, since even more people are surprised about this than any other type of like-kind property, then in I think it was 2008, I wrote an article in the national magazine Landman. Yeah, here it is. I don't have to think it was 2008. There it is. It was in the Landman magazine where I point out the fact that most types of brick and mortar are like kind to many types of mineral interest, and the simplest are royalties. So that's just black and white. That's simple. You can sell an apartment building and buy oil and gas royalties. And in that article, I attached the 10 top cases for people to show their CPA or their attorney.
Yeah.
I would hate to. The reason I'm not a CPA is that's way too much to keep up with. The tax code is 6 times as big as the King James Version of the Bible. It's too much to keep up with. So CPAs just don't have time to do all this research. So we just give it to them for free. And, it's natural that most CPAs wouldn't think that brick and mortar and minerals are like kind. So that's why I went ahead and did the research and published this article so people can get right to the point.
We've got a question on the side here. Let me ask you on behalf. So when is the best time to start thinking about this? The question on the side has to do with they're in the process of considering whether to sell their property now. And they want to know when ideally do you start thinking about this? Obviously, are you going to go into the 45 and 180?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we have the timing down on this so that people know when is best to contact you or start to think about these options.
Yeah. And the long story short, it's never too early. Yeah, you want to go ahead and contact me now because we don't charge for our time, and you can start planning ahead. Yeah. So that's it. Yeah. And then okay. Yeah. This is not for flips. Okay. This is the number one question we are asked. Once I explain how broad your options are, I still have to say, but this is only for properties you buy to hold. This is not for flips.
Okay.
It wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair for like a builder to do this on homes they're building for resale, because that's ordinary income. Teachers and secretaries and real estate agents, they have to pay ordinary income rates on what they do for a living. So if it's your main job, you buy lots and you build homes for resale, that's your inventory. Just so same for a developer that buys land to subdivide. It's not for that. And even if you're not a builder or developer, even on a single house, if you buy a house with the intent to fix it up and sell it, it's not for that. This is for, remember the farmer example. This is just, a farmer's just making money farming and just wants to buy a bigger farm. Well, so this is for people who buy and hold. Now,
there's a question here. It has to do with your primary residence. It is not possible to do for your primary residence. Is that correct?
I love that question. Well, number one, right, it's not possible. In a lot of cases, primary residence, though, is even better than this. In some cases, it isn't. But this is going to be a good little preview of what I'm going to cover later, where some properties are part primary residence and part investment. So you can sell a property.
The question was about if they had I think you got them going on the farming thing here. If they have a farm with the house on it, do they need to subdivide out the house and then they could do it with the rest of the property?
Yeah, you can even sell the whole thing and you just have to divide out the price. But yeah, I'll repeat the basic rules for primary residence when I get to that.
Perfect.
So but yeah, this is for properties you buy to hold. So this is still actually the number one question we're asked. And the reason is that believe it or not, Zach, the code does not define the word held. It says this is only for properties you buy to hold, and it literally doesn't define that word. So anytime a statute or a constitution doesn't define a word, then it's up to the courts to determine the person's intent. So held is a matter of intent. You hear 1 year and 2 years thrown around a lot, and that is semi okay. I quasi agree with that. 1 and 2 years are good rules of thumb for how long you generally have to hold a property. It's safest to do a 1031 on properties you've already held a couple of years and just been sitting on it and didn't even think about selling it for 2 years.
Right.
That is generally the safest. But since that's actually not in the law, if you can prove you did buy with that intent and something changes, you can sell it. So in general, you hold a property at least a year and 2 years if you can. But if you have other facts, you do not have to do that at all. And the industry has never seen anything like the last 18 months where we've had so many short holding periods. It's not going to surprise you, Zach, and the other people on this webinar, how many times that we've had people call us and say, look, I bought this property 3 months ago. I swear I didn't buy it to flip. I didn't have it on the market. And someone knocked on my door offering to pay me 50 to 100% more than I paid for it. Can I sell it? And I say, yeah, if you can show your intent was to hold it. If somebody wants to make you an unsolicited offer, you can turn right around and sell it and do a 1031.
Wow. So in the sidebar, we'll connect you guys to Greg. But yeah, it definitely, if you have a question about any of this, even if it, as you were just saying there, Greg, even if it's a very short hold to this point, we'll get you in touch with Greg and you can go through the specifics of your transaction, of your property, and he'll tell you if yay or nay. So fantastic. Exactly. That's great knowledge. I didn't know that. Yeah,
you bet. I thought I had a vacation home slide. I may have it. Vacation homes are pretty specific. You can even buy a place in a neat area like Aspen, Colorado, or on the beach or something, but you can't use it for vacation more than 2 weeks a year the first 2 years.
Oh, great. Now we have an argument going into the side of what's better, skiing or the beach. Fantastic, Greg. Good motivation there. Yes, yeah, tell us, are you a skier, are you a snowboarder, or are you a beach goer, a sun fan? Let us know in the sidebar.
And I'll just throw out there, I go through life being somewhat oblivious about a lot of things. Thank goodness not about 1031s. That it took me, it was only within the last few years that it finally really dawned on me how much I'm more of a skiing person. But anyway,
You're starting to
'cause
get some hate going on the side over here, but all right, man. You picked your team. Let us know what team you're on.
even though I don't live in LA, I'm in LA right now, and I can tell you it feels beautiful.
All right.
Of course, that's beach. That's the best combination.
That's
It's
true.
beach.
That's
It's
true.
beach,
The
but it's not.
Californians, so like we just showed you on the previous slide, for the additional tax money that you got to pay to live in California. Maybe it's great to ski during the morning and hit the beach in the afternoon. I don't know. Let us
Exactly.
know where you're from. Let us know where you are right now. And if you're in California like Greg is, even if you're willing to pay higher taxes to live there, maybe you have the best of both worlds. So I think we've started a maelstrom in the sidebar over there.
That's right. Low humidity is good. Let's see. So exchange. Okay, there's two parts to exchange. One are the dollars. It's very black and white. Well, the structure is black and white too, but the structure is also going to prove my point. I hope that exchange doesn't even mean exchange. Okay, that part of what I was saying earlier. But first, the dollars. If you want, you get to defer. You get to decide if you want to defer all the tax or some of it. That's good news. I have a little bit of maybe bad news for some people because they really want their cake and eat it too, and the dessert and everything, but I'll explain that here now. If you want to defer all the tax, you do have to reinvest all of your proceeds and replace your debt. Okay. That makes some people mad. Some people think they should be able to pull their cost basis back. But no, remember those farmers? Farmers just said, look, we just want to keep moving up.
Yeah.
And we can't move up. We can't pay taxes with all dirt. If we go from all dirt to all dirt, we can't pay taxes. So that's why you do have to buy as much as you're selling if you want to defer all the tax.
Okay.
Except everyone's closing cost is paid the same. So it's not a pain in the rear. So much of it is like any other sale. The title company gets paid, the realtors get paid, everything gets paid, but the net cash does have to get spent, and you got to replace your debt too. So here now some of the few words that actually mean what they say, the property you're selling is the relinquished property, and the property you're buying is replacement.
Okay.
So they sold for $900,000. They had a $300,000 loan payoff, and then they have cost of sale of 60. So their net equity is 540. And they went over here and they bought a property for $1.2 million. And they more than replaced their debt, and they reinvested all their equity. So they had no boot. Boot is just some arbitrary word somebody came up with a long time ago to refer to the taxable amount. So you don't want to have boot. I guess maybe one time a farmer traded a farm to another guy, and they were just swapping farms, but they weren't, of course, equal. So one guy threw in some horses to boot.
All right. Yeah. I didn't know that. I don't know if you're making that up. We're getting some questionable comments in the sidebar over there, but you said you've been doing this for a while, so I think we're gonna have to defer to you there.
Right. They'll have to prove me wrong.
Yeah.
They can contact me later.
There you go. Contact me later and tell me where the boot really came from. That's a great question. If you have a guess of where the boot came from, let us know in the sidebar.
Yeah, a little bit of question that people don't need to answer, just rhetorical question for people to think about. There's two minimum. So try to block out the replacement property thing here. What are the two minimum things that this guy had to do to pay no tax? To barely defer all of the tax. If you go back to the relinquished column and think about it, there's two minimum things he had to do to barely defer all the tax. And what you do is you add the debt and equity. That's 840.
Yeah.
So you got to buy 840. And the other thing is it's not a quantitative thing. It's a qualitative thing. This person also can't put any of the cash in her pocket. So
okay.
Not only do you have to buy,
but we know that, right? Well, so you're saying complete. Yeah. Okay. So complete investment to not pay any taxes.
Well, not only do you have to buy as much as you sold, but you can't put any of the cash in your pocket. Like you can't just increase your debt and put money in your pocket. But now there's a creative thing people should think about. How do you get around this? If you buy enough real estate, how do you get around the fact that you can't just bump up your debt in order to put money in your pocket? The way you get around that, there's no prohibition against this. After you do this, there's no law that says you can't then refinance and pull some of your equity out, but you have to,
Ah,
you got to go through this first.
very smart.
Yeah, thank you. So, and now here, the same sale, but they only bought 700,000.
Gotcha.
So they got out of
So in
debt
this
by
case,
40
we're looking
years.
at the boot, right? We're
They have
talking
boot,
about
yeah.
now the boot's coming on.
Right. So let's see. Number one, you don't do this if your gain is only 140. But you do this. Like, what if your gain would have been 340? You're still deferring taxes on 200,000, which is at least 30 grand for
Right.
most people. Or another situation where you would do, where this makes sense. If you figure this out ahead of time to where you have time to identify additional property, so you don't have to put all your eggs in one basket.
Okay.
So, and let's say that this 140 isn't enough money to buy the kind of brick and mortar that this person buys. This is another reason why oil and gas is such a popular option, because with oil and gas, you can put a lot less money into it. You can put 140,000 and you don't have to negotiate a whole brick and mortar sale and purchase. You can just dump the boot into minerals. So that's another reason to go over that example. So true or false, in a 1031, all equity must be reinvested and all debt replaced. Reason I put this in here, I hope it's very basic after what I just went over, but they're literally, you can literally find 1031 publications where it says, it puts in writing that all equity must be reinvested and all debt replaced. What they mean is they're assuming that you know that they're talking about if you want to defer all the taxes, but you don't have to do that. You can do a partial exchange, but every dollar that doesn't go into the replacement property is all, it comes out of profit. You just can't
Is
assign
that
any,
taxed at what rate is that taxed at? The
the federal rate is anywhere from 15% to 23.8. On the appreciation, it can be 28.8% on the depreciation.
is
And
that
then
based on someone's tax? That's based on an individual's taxable.
Right, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Tax rate.
And in some states, they have state tax on top of that.
Okay.
Okay, so here's why exchange doesn't mean exchange. It's so much easier than that word sounds like. Well, from 1921 Zach until 1991, actually exchange meant exchange. So you actually had to find somebody to swap with. In 91, they revolutionized this whole thing. It made it a billion times easier. And they said, look, we're going to let you go ahead. You're the seller, the taxpayer. We'll let you just sell to anybody you want to. You don't have to ask somebody to participate in your exchange, at least not the other property owners. You just sell to them, but you do have to have exchange documents at the closing, but you sell to them. And then you have 45 days to identify a group of properties you're considering and a total of 180 to close. So you just sell, and then somebody like us holds your funds and you identify what you want to buy within 45 days after closing, and you close within 180. And then you tell us where to send the money for whoever owns the property you want to buy. So all you did, it's just a rollover. All you did was you sold and you just didn't touch the money, and then you bought.
So we've got a question in the sidebar that someone has just sold some property. They've already closed on it, and now they have the money where they're within the 45-day period. Is that, can they still do this, or do you have to, I don't know, how do you indicate whether you're going to do a 1031 prior to sale, or when do you do that?
It's too late. You have to have 1031 documents at the closing.
Okay. And
So-
who arranges that? At what point, is it the broker? Is it your agent? Is it you? Who is it that helps you do that? Let's just say you're under contract right now and have a closing coming up and you want to do this. What's that process like?
So anybody, you want to contact somebody like us early, even you can contact us before you're even sure you're going to list it if you want to, but you really need to if you've gone all the way to contract. And either about half the time we get contacted by the sellers and half the time by the broker.
Okay.
Any good broker should be the one bringing this up with any listing.
Okay.
It should ask the person what they plan, what are their goals, of course. I know you do that, Zach, all the time. What are your goals?
Absolutely.
yeah, what are you going to do with the money? Not to be personal, but I'm just here to help you achieve your goals. And you know, what do you need to do? What are you looking to achieve? You want cash flow? Do you want to pay taxes or not? If you don't want to, if you want to have the most to invest after this sale, then we need to get you in touch with a good 1031 person.
Yeah.
And you
Well,
know,
that's just
figure out.
part of providing services we do as brokers and agents to help people maintain or retain the most amount of their money. If they love paying taxes, I know we're getting a lot of boos for paying taxes still, but if you love paying taxes, sure. I mean, that's going to be up to you and your decision. And it goes back to what you're talking about with the boot. Like sometimes you just say, look, I cannot find enough. Or I cannot find I love the property that I've found. I want to do it into this property and I'm not going to use all of it, or I want to take some of it home. I want to go buy a new Ferrari or whatever you're going to do with your money. In that case, that's okay. But just realize that we're showing, as we do in all of our transactions as advisors, to say, here are the options that you have. If you talk to Greg, he's going to walk you through this process, but just realize that these are your options at this point, and there is a finite period. Once you close, as you said, once the closing has happened, there's no more option to do this.
Right. You have to have our documents at the closing. This is when Michael, we want Michael to chime in because of this 45-day period. So every day somebody says, well, I want to sell, but I don't know how I'm going to find something in this market. You know, what do I do? And they just need to know all their options. And there's a couple of things that are so much easier to identify if you're under the gun, either as your main property you go into or as a fallback or just something to do with your boot. So you have sold, and this is again something you should check out before you sell. But Michael talks to people all the time that are already halfway through their 45-day period, and he could still help them. So and I've already talked about the options of minerals. So this is a time for Michael to jump in. And
let me ask you before we jump into Mike, and I know he's gonna. He is a friend of the CRE Pro course, and he's a friend of mine. I know he's going to deliver some action-packed knowledge here. Let me ask you as a conclusion question of sorts here, Greg. It comes from the sidebar. What is the number one misconception, the number one question, or the number one misconception about the 1031 exchange that you see most often, that if you could have a direct portal to everybody that is doing a transaction, whether they're a broker, agent, developer, investor, what is the number one question that you get that you wish everybody knew?
Yeah, well, I'll cheat because I got to give two of them. The one is that, like kind people they think there's so many people who still think they have to buy the same exact thing that they're selling. And I hope I've shown how huge their options are, how amazing they are. So that would be the number one. The reason why people aren't selling is they think they have to buy the same thing and they don't want to. And the other misconception, unfortunately, comes largely from CPAs, although less and less. CPAs more and more are getting this. But there's the conception of, well, why do a 1031? You're just kicking the can down the road. What good is a 1031? Well, kicking the can down the road is huge because I had a guy that sold one rental and then he bought this allowed him to buy two. And then later this allowed him to sell two and buy four. And then later this allowed him to sell four and buy nine. He would not have 9 rentals if he didn't keep deferring the taxes and using the government's money to buy a lot more real estate. So you wind up a lot wealthier. You wind up with a lot more choices. You wind up with more bargaining power. And even so, if you do pay taxes, it's still at a 0% interest rate.
Okay.
You know, and then, but on top of that, we already talked about the fact that so many people defer their whole life, they never pay taxes, and then they die and the tax goes away. So I would say that right there. And I do have a couple of things to add, you know, later, just a couple of things, but
let me ask you one more question. It comes from our question section here on the side. Is this deck available if they message or they enter in their information here on the right-hand side or on the sidebar? Can we send them this deck?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. So if you have any questions, directly for Greg, if you want to be contacted, if you want us to send you a PDF of this deck for your team, or for your just for your yourself, so you can have such a cool PowerPoint ready to go and this really comes down to, Greg, I see this all the time in brokerage, where the advisor, it's usually a financial advisor, doesn't understand all of this, and they say, no, just sell, we'll take the money, we can decide what to do with it afterwards. And then my client comes to me and they say, well, I really wanted to do that, or it looks like, this is the biggest sale of my life, or this is something I inherited, what can I do now? And I'd say, I warned you about this, and I asked you to talk to Greg, and now it's too late. So the answer, I think, there is to reach out to Greg as soon as possible, and he'll walk you through it. If you decide it's the option for you, great. If you decide it's not, that's okay too. But the more knowledge that you have, the better off you're going to be, and just make that decision for yourself. So yeah, that's really helpful for both for financial advisors, for anybody in the accounting industry, same thing, legal, or in the real estate brokerage industry. Contact Greg and reach out if you have specific questions. I know you have a great transition to my friend Mike here, so I'll tee you up on that one.
Yeah. Okay, Mike, why don't you do that, and I'll wrap up with QI, and you may say something about QIs too, but go ahead, Mike. Let them know what you do.
Yeah, so kind of what he's talking about here with the time frames, I can't emphasize how important being ahead of the 8 ball is. You wouldn't believe how many people, whether it's somebody that Greg introduced us to, or that we just run into via networking, where I'm getting approached at almost the 11th hour, and luckily we have the flexibility and we're nimble enough, and we have the we're always buying. We're an acquisition group, right? So we usually have something there that is going to fit somebody's need, but people are scrambling at the end trying to make something happen. So it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be stressful. We can, be a safety net for somebody who's down to the wire and didn't really, get a head start on figuring out what their options are. Or maybe, like I said earlier, maybe something just falls apart, right?
Yeah.
We can be a safety net there for you. We should have something that, that you can identify multiple options. We very much take a diversified approach to our acquisitions. All our eggs are never in one basket. So we're going to have different options out there. And again, we can be a safety net for you if you're down to the wire. But the people that do the best, Greg and I worked with a couple, a guy named Mark that Greg had referred to us. He started doing his homework about 2 months, I think, before they actually even closed on the relinquished property. And these guys, he and his wife, they really pounded the pavement, did a lot of due diligence, looking for deals out there. And they knew that they liked the idea of minerals. They knew that because of their head start, they had an opportunity to kind of sit down with me and kind of look at some stuff that they liked. They knew they had a particular portion of their exchange that they wanted to allocate to the minerals. And they did that right out of the gate at the beginning of their 45-day window. And they worked and worked and worked as hard as they really could, trying to figure out some other stuff so that they could, they're looking at RV parks, other triple net leases, and just couldn't find anything they were comfortable with. And at the end, they had about 3 days left. I think it was, Greg, or like 7 days, something like that. I can't remember. But they said, all right, look, Mike, we can't find anything else. We've got however much left of funds that we don't want to pay tax on. What do you got? So again, as much time as you can give yourself, the better.
Can you explain to me here, and this is going to tie the two of you in, I think, quite well together, which is, you mentioned already, Greg, that there's you can identify 3 properties, correct? Or 3 options, essentially. So in your case there, Mike, Mark and his wife identified a property they really liked, and now they've got 2 other options. Is that correct?
No, well, what they did was they used the 200% rule, which Greg could elaborate a little bit more on in a few minutes. But basically, you've got the 3-pick rule, which doesn't have any limitation on value, right? But the 200% rule allows you to identify any amount of replacement properties. Can be 3, can be 10 or whatever, as long as the total value of those replacements do not equal 200% of the the value of the exchange. So what Mark and his wife did is that they knew about they did the homework on options. They did the homework on 3-pick versus 200% rule. And they chose the 200% rule before they ever closed. They knew they were doing it. And they had the flexibility, as long as the values didn't, step out of bounds, to identify lots of stuff. And I think they may have even identified a few brick and mortar properties, and they just didn't work out. But the idea would be to figure out which one of those methods is going to make the most sense for you. A lot of the people that we deal with are using that 200% rule because they like the flexibility of it. But then again, the only, I guess, caveat there, and correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, is you're limited on value. Right?
Yeah, can you dive a little bit further into that, Greg? That's really interesting, and I think it does bring the two of you together and how you work in symbiosis.
Yeah, thank goodness that the Congress gave two good options. They gave three options. One of them's no good, but at least they gave two good ones. So the three property rule, which most people memorize, thank goodness is not the only option. And because, if you're buying minerals, a lot of times you're buying into several different properties. And so it'd be hard to fit the three property rule. Well, a lot of times impossible, but there's a 200% rule. It says, okay, you can list as many different properties as you want if the value of all the properties you list is not more than double your gross sales price.
Okay.
That works perfectly for minerals.
So where that really gets useful on the mineral side is, you have, who knows so you might have $500,000 left over. You could have some, and like in Greg's example, you had some odd dollar amount, 140,000. Or maybe you have 600,000 left over and you want to split it between three different properties, right? Yeah, you like Greg said, there's a ton of flexibility there that 200% rule gives you, especially when you have some odd dollar amounts, unplanned dollar amounts.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the way. That's great. And I want to cover a little bit about split treatment. Somebody asked about as far as when to contact a QI early in the sales process and let the title company know it's an exchange. And I'd say at least a good week before closing, make sure the QI has what they need to set up the exchange documents. And 24 hours before closing, make sure that exchange documents are actually at the title company. I have another handy sheet, Zach, that I can send you. You can send people about how to set these up. It's really easy.
Yeah, let us know in the sidebar if you want it more information on how to set it up, and we'll send it over to you. Fantastic.
Yeah. So somebody
let me ask you a quick question here from the
Sure.
audience here. The qualified intermediary exists because you never actually take receipt of the money, right? So you're never you sell a property, the money goes to the qualified intermediary so that you never actually take receipt of it, and then it is then rolled over into the next property. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah. Right.
Okay.
And a lot of people, as you know, Zach, are aware that they can't touch the money, but some people aren't aware of the constructive receipt, the concept of constructive receipt. Somebody will call me after they've closed and they say, I closed, but I know I can't touch the money. So I told the title company to hang on to the money. Well, so they're just aware that they can't have actual receipt. The problem is once a deal closes in your name and it's funded and you didn't have exchange documents there, that is your money. That's your money, whether you've touched it or not. That's called you're in constructive receipt, and that's just as fatal. That's why you got to call us early.
Gotcha.
Now, with a primary residence, if you've lived in it 2 of the prior 5 years, a married couple gets a $500,000 gain tax free for their residence. And let's say you're in a 4-plex and you live in 1 unit. If you sell it, well, then you allocate a fourth of the sales price to the unit you lived in. And that's going to be non-taxable up to a $500,000 gain for a married couple, $250,000 for a single person. And then you can do a 1031 with 3/4 of the proceeds. And what's really cool is the same thing applies to land, a farm and ranch. But you don't have to subdivide it. You just have to make a reasonable allocation of the price. Here's a $4.6 million ranch sale that they live on. So they valued 200 acres at $4 million. And their farmhouse at 600,000. So if their cost in the farmhouse was 100,000 and a little bit of land around it, and then you add 500,000 gain, that means you can put 600,000 in your pocket. You can do a 1031 with the 4 million for the land. We do these every day. About half the people like this, they'll go buy a much, much, much bigger place further out of town.
Yeah.
A lot cheaper. The other half, they roll all of that $4 million into minerals or rent houses into cash flowing real estate. and substantially increase their cash flow each month. So
That
you can
makes
do
so
that.
much sense, right? Because you're sitting on top of something that's not producing any income, and then you're rolling that into something. If you're looking again, like your farmer example before, to investing in something that's paying out monthly, annually, a dividend. So you're turning something which is essentially appreciating into something that's paying out in a consistent basis. That just seems to make sense for a lot of people. Particularly when you think the appreciation has hit to the level where you're ready either to make that transition into the passive income flow or active income flow, but you're not waiting on that appreciation anymore. You want it to start paying back to you now without selling it and paying taxes on all of it.
Yeah, exactly. Here's one where they have $1 million residence and they have Airbnb rooms. Part of it's 1031, part of it's primary residence. And then this is very topical. More people are working out of their home.
Brilliant.
If your CPA says you can justify treating part of your house as a business, more and more people are. That's a split treatment. Anybody who hasn't read the book by Tom Wheelwright on tax-free wealth, you got to get it.
We'll put
He's
a
got a great-
link over there in the sidebar.
Yeah, it's great. So anyway, so this is my last thing. This is my last minute, but it's just as important as everything else. Remember I said like, kind, and exchange are better than they sound?
Yeah.
But qualified intermediary is worse than it's. If you don't learn what this means, you can lose everything, because qualified intermediary also doesn't mean qualified. Just like kind. Yeah, there's nothing qualified about qualified intermediary. Okay. In 91, Congress decided to make this easier, and they said, okay, you got to put your money with someone, and let's call them a qualified intermediary. Well, guess what, Zach? They do not disqualify embezzlers. The actual definition of a qualified intermediary, it includes everybody in the universe who's not disqualified. They don't disqualify criminals. They literally only disqualify the person's relatives.
This is something I know from the real estate industry. It sort of has this moniker on it where what has happened to the qualified intermediary over time, because you're holding on to a lot of money, right, as the transaction is occurring. So it seems that you want to be with somebody that has been in the business for a long time, proven themselves, and has a solid track record. These guys here seem like they're not doing so great, or they didn't do so great for their clients.
They ran off with the money.
Choosing correctly, right? You want to choose the qualified intermediary that has a good track record, and guys like Greg here that have been doing it for a long time.
Absolutely. So yeah, we're owned by Stewart Title. That's why people use us. You want to know who?
There you go. Okay.
You want to know who owns the QI? Who owns them? Are they credit worthy? What's their rating? And you want to ask that about us and anybody. Does the bank account require the exchanger's signature for withdrawal? Well, of course, we being owned by a title company, of course we require their signature. But believe it or not, Zach, there's no law that requires this. So that's how QIs were able to just write checks on the accounts.
I see. Okay.
See, there's no law that says the money even goes in the bank. So QIs it's a Wild West unless it's not. So in other words,
look, everybody knows Stewart Title, right? I mean, go with somebody that you've well researched, that you know that has good financial standing, and it sounds like in your case, in particular, Stewart Title is, as we all know, a very well respected.
Thank you. So in summary, like kind is any U.S. real estate held for business or investment, and exchange is a sale with exchange documents. Cannot emphasize that enough. And a QI is under the code, a QI is any old third party who holds the funds. Who it is to a prudent investor is someone who knows what they're doing and is ethical and is safe. So, and there's never a reason not to call a QI. No QIs that I've ever heard of charge upfront fees. You only pay them if you use this at the closing. So, and our fee is so nominal, it's ridiculously low. So, just call anytime.
So you heard it here first. You've got the contact details here for Greg. And yeah, if you just mention in the sidebar you'd like Greg to give you a call, contact, I will send over all of his information. You have it here as well.
Thank you, Zach, very much. I appreciate the opportunity to bring this information to everybody, and the real world options. I think people really, I see people benefit from this every day. So I hope everybody on this call, this webinar benefits too.
And now Mr. Showtime himself, Mike Bowen. Mike, welcome to the webinar, my man. You've got some
Thank you.
fans in the
Thanks for having
sidebar.
me.
I think they know you from previous shows with me, but tell them a little bit more about yourself. I'm going to flip your slides here, okay?
Sure. So, you know, again, what we do is we're mineral acquisition guys, right? So what we want to do is try to find the fields of production that we like, primarily in West Texas. Permian Basin is where we've been focused for the last couple of years. We figure out, you know, who owns the minerals under the fields of production, who's receiving the royalties, and then just kind of work our way through those individuals and figure out who's interested in selling to us. The allure for these people to sell to us is a large lump sum of money up front. Once we make an acquisition, you know, when we get approached from other, you know, real estate brokers or attorneys or whoever it may be who's looking for these alternatives, then what we can do is we can kind of lay out the different things that we have in our portfolio at that current time and try to figure out what type of goals and things like that people are trying to achieve through the exchange, and try to match them up with the best options possible, and a full package of due diligence so they can do their own homework in it. Some of the benefits of owning, you know, whether it's through an exchange or not, of owning minerals is that it's really set up like a triple net lease. You know, the tenant, you know, all the liabilities are burdened on our tenants, which are your Exxon, Chevron, ConocoPhillips, Pioneers of the world. They handle everything. We don't own any of the wells. You know, therefore, we're in more of a position of a landlord, right? Is the way I liken it to, as the mineral owner. And then we receive a royalty payment or a rent from our tenant every month, which again are in most cases very large publicly traded oil and gas operating companies. 15% of the revenue is tax-free income. The 85%, which is your taxable event, is 1099, treated as ordinary income. Anything that someone would buy from us, you know, we're not going to manage their, you know, investment, manage their property, charge any fees. They'll acquire the mineral deed, and you know they'll get paid directly from the Exxon or the Chevron. They'll be in complete control. But again, it's tax sheltered income. It's not tied to your stock or real estate markets, which I think is the big thing that is attractive to most people. And you know, it's not uncommon to see, you know, mid high teens, sometimes 20+% annualized yields on some of these, especially now when you know, prices are doing what they're doing. There's a lot of new drilling on a lot of the properties that we own, so there's a, you know, a significant amount of overperformance above and beyond our expectation. But anyway, yeah, the gist of it is, you know, we want to give, you know, and we buy these things with the intention of holding them long term for us. In most cases, we have to sell them, you know, so that we don't kind of lose any business when we get a referral for a 1031 exchange. But you know, we want to make sure that we're as transparent as possible. We try to approach a potential, you know, purchaser with the same transparency that we have whenever we do our due diligence. We'll provide all of the information that we have at our disposal, and kind of give our opinion of the asset, the why, as far as why we bought it and what our strategy with it is, and kind of give everybody enough tools to make an informed decision. And in most cases, this is a really good fit for people because it's not meant to be a complete replacement for what they're already doing. It's meant to work with the leftover funds, or that boot, as Greg put it. And then again, if somebody gets into a position where, you know, you can't find a replacement at all, sure, yeah, we can be a safety net for you, and we can do a total replacement. But it's very, very flexible. You know, there's a very active, established secondary market for it, where people can realize appreciation events and liquidate in the future, just like with any other real estate. But the big difference between, you know, buying a shopping center, an apartment, or any other brick and mortar is that, you know, you're waiting for appreciation long term. Well, when we buy these mineral properties, we're buying at the very beginning stages of development. So there's a significant amount of upfront cash flow, and you're paid up front versus having to wait, you know, 20 years to realize your gain, or 10 years to realize your gain.
The question we got on the side here, Mike, is, and this is probably one that Greg, I'd like you to answer as well. It has to do with REITs, but more so in your case, Mike, they're talking about, is this a pool of wells, and if, or do you own a specific well, or how does that work? Are you investing in a fund?
No. Well, I mean, I'm sure that there's you know, opportunities like that out there that are available, but
No. In your
You know,
case, I'm saying with Ranger,
yeah,
are they investing in a fund of or a several, or how does that work?
no fund. You're not going to own any wells. You're going to buy mineral deeds or overriding royalty interests, which
Okay.
are both 1031 compatible. You know, so you might have mineral rights in a, you know, underneath a 5,000 acre unit or a 2,000 acre, 600 acre unit that has a group of wells producing and room for more in the future. Yeah, you won't own the wells, right? And it would be specific to a particular piece of property. It wouldn't be a conglomerate of assets from all over the place. You'd be looking at one specific, what are called production units.
Okay.
In this case, in West Texas. So.
Okay. So these are both currently are they currently pumping oil, or are they are there some are they called out of, I don't know what the term is, but are they production wells, or are they the dormant something like?
So there's a couple different ways that you can acquire minerals, a couple strategies that we use. You know, you can buy minerals that are not producing at all. We do a lot of that. We buy in the, you know, inside of the trends, you know, in the areas we think are going to get drilled soon. That are leased, minerals that are already leased, but with no production. The exposure that you have there that you wouldn't have with something that's producing is we don't have any, we don't know when they're going to drill. You know, we have indicators. You can see permits if they've permitted new wells. We can have an idea of when it should happen, but we don't know when they're going to drill. So that the biggest amount of exposure that you have in a non-producing property is, you know, it's time. When's it going to drill? When's it going to produce? The more common type of mineral royalty that we sell when we're doing it for 1031 exchanges are properties that are already producing. They're already generating a revenue stream from that production. When we acquire the mineral deed, those royalties get redirected to us. And then the same thing when somebody would buy those, you know, buy that, if we sell it, if somebody buys it, those royalties would get redirected to them, the new owners. But
let me ask
yeah,
you,
I mean,
Greg,
you can do it both ways.
Let me ask you, is it possible to, or is it common, I guess, to invest in a REIT or a fund or something that's not a specific individual property? Can you do that? Can you buy shares with your 1031 money in a real estate fund?
No, it has to be a direct interest in real estate. So shares in a REIT don't work because that's just stock, even though the REIT owns the real estate.
Okay.
That's a different transaction. It's an up REIT, but it's a lot more limited. So yeah, the straight answer is REITs don't qualify. The DST is loosely referred to as a private REIT. And that's where you buy a piece of an Amazon warehouse or something. And, you know, those have pros and cons with them too. Those do qualify, and you're buying a piece of a building that someone put together, and that actually qualifies. It looks like a REIT, except it qualifies. It's a private REIT, but there's no secondary market. So when you buy into a DST, you can't just turn right around and sell it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And since it's so conservative, most of them are like the tenant is Amazon or something. So since they're considered so safe and easy, and they don't take any thought, you know, the returns on those are so low, you know.
Versus
I mean,
what Mike is saying, you said your returns, I mean, I know it's hard to approximate, but you think north of 15 to 20%, is that what you said?
Not uncommon at all, you know.
Wow.
And every property is going to have to be evaluated on its own merit. Everyone produces independent from the other, so they're all
Sidebar's
different.
blowing up, man. They want in on this. They're saying that what they have is not producing that. Well, just as you said, Greg, in the sidebar, I didn't know that there was such a big difference between the DST cash flow out and what Mike has in terms of mineral.
And I don't want anybody on here to think I'm blasting DSTs. Everything has pros and cons. Heck,
no, of course. Everybody has a different risk tolerance, obviously, as well.
My wife and I have a DST because that's all she wanted. She wanted the brick and mortar. She wanted to touch it. So we actually have one. So yeah, everything has its pros and cons. Yeah.
What would you say, Micah, in terms of risk tolerance? And I understand that there is, and risk absolutely correlates to return. How do you differentiate your opportunity or option against a DST?
Oh, the reason why we buy the minerals and we don't drill wells or do other stuff in the oil space is because, you know, it's one of the more, not the most conservative way to to get paid at the wellhead, without having the risk of a dry hole, right? I guess if you bought a interest in under a mineral interest somewhere where there's only one well and that's all they were ever going to drill, then you might have a similar type of exposure. But these are the major oil fields in the U.S. Like the Permian Basin is it. I mean, that's the spot.
Can you tell us what happens in today's world as oil is continuing to go up and my car is more and more expensive to fill up every day? What does that mean in terms of investment in your fund? And yeah, can you give us a general outlook on that?
Well, the minerals that we own,
so it's not just oil. Am I understanding? Not just oil.
Yeah, gas and oil. But yeah, I mean, the higher the prices, the better it is for your checks, for sure.
Okay.
But what the other thing that high prices will do is they will create incentives for these guys, the Exxon, the Conoco, these operators, these big operators. The higher the price gets, the bigger their profit margins are. And when they have a bunch of acreage that, be it proven with existing production or in an area where there's a proven area. So like you're talking about like the West Texas, where a company like Pioneer has thousands and thousands of acres. There's an incentive from an operator standpoint to drill more wells when prices are higher, which is really good for a mineral owner because we don't pay for any of the development costs.
Right.
So it's about positioning ourselves at the beginning stage development on a property. So all that meat's on the bone, if you will, in terms of reserves to be paid on. And then put yourself in a position where you're most likely to realize upside sooner than later from that consistent development. And right now is a really good time because you're seeing a lot of, I don't think there's not a massive amount of money being spent CapEx right now. There's not a ton of new rigs picking up nationwide, but we've seen a steady uptick in development on pretty much everything that we own in these core areas of the Permian, because it's good acreage and these operators make more money when prices are high. I mean, bottom line. So,
can you explain to us in very, very simple terms what the typical investment is for you? Like when the process, just as Greg mentioned, what is the process into engaging with you, talking with you, learning more about Ranger, learning more about your 1031 exchange process? What does that typical process look like, and who would be an ideal person to reach out to you, and at what time?
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm always here, and I'm happy to kind of talk about what we do with anybody at any point in the process. I talk to a lot of people who aren't anywhere near closing on the relinquished property, who are thinking about selling. I talk to people who have sold it and have 3 days left in the exchange. And I talk to people sometimes. Greg and I know a guy, Mike, who thought he was going to do an exchange, didn't realize the paperwork wasn't turned in, and we ended up kind of establishing a very good relationship 2 months after a relinquished property because he liked the concept, right? So I'm open to talking to people at any point, right? If there's just kind of a general interest in the concept, let's talk about it. If you've got an upcoming exchange, let's talk about what we can do to help you out with it. If you're in one, let's talk about how we can help you. It's not a fit for everybody.
But the best way to figure that out, right, I think is to contact you, right? A quick conversation with you, you can rule in or out whether it's a good option or opportunity to invest with Ranger or identify.
To buy, you want to buy. We'll show you the properties that we own currently. I'm not a broker or an agent or anything like that. These are all assets that we vetted, that we've laid out our own capital. I'm not using some credit facility, cash money that we're using to buy these things. So, we've got to do our homework, but we've always got, options available. And, just whenever we have a chance to sit down and talk with somebody, we'll kind of get an idea of what they're trying to achieve, and we'll show you what's available. And then we can maybe even talk about what's on the horizon, what's coming up. I'll provide the data set for the acquisition, and, we go through it together, or you can do it on your own. I mean, it's up to you, but
we got a great comment in the side. They says Mike's got skin in the game. I like to see that. It's reassuring to me as an investor and somebody that I want to do business with. So
this is very much for me, and reason why I think we've done so well and we continue to do so well with a word of mouth business like this is that this is not a do as I say, not as I do. It's like, look, here's what I've got. I've already bought it. And if I don't sell it, I've got to be okay with holding it forever. Right. And some stuff sometimes we buy with the intention of not doing anything with it for a couple of years. Sometimes it's trying to make sure that we have something to put in front of people when we're approached for 1031 exchange. But we're laying the capital out and buy these things first. So we're taking the risk first for sure.
How can people get in touch with you, Mike? What's the best way to do that? We do have an ebook all about your business, all about Ranger. All you need to do is enter your contact details in the sidebar. What is the easiest way, or not your contact details? Just let us know that you want it, and I'll reach out to you and connect with you directly. What's the easiest way for people to get in touch with you, Mike?
My email address is managementmgmt at rangerminerals.com.
I'll put it in the sidebar as well.
My direct contact here at the office is 469-310-4974. My cell phone is 940-594-1986. Call me, text me, email me. I don't have a problem talking about this at any hour of the day. I mean, I really love what I do. So yeah, just holler at me. I'm ready to talk.
As someone just said in the sidebar, you might be getting some midnight phone calls from some people saying, "Hey, tell me more about this. This sounds like an amazing opportunity." So just get ready for that, Mike. Just get ready for that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Guys, I really want to thank you for your time. Again, I promised our audience and our webinar fans here, the two of the biggest heavy hitters. If you know of other people who might enjoy this, please feel free to send it along or copy them in the sidebar here, and I will send them a copy of this webinar. And again, we have both the deck from Greg, and when we have the deck and the ebook, the free ebook from Mike, just let us know in the sidebar which of those that you like, or both of them. And then we've got the contact details for both of these gentlemen. I can't say enough great things about them, and I'm so glad that they came on today. If you have more questions for us, again, we're answering everything in the sidebar, and we've got support staff on that's going to be answering your questions both now and in the future. So please feel free to reach out. You guys, Greg, let me know from California, what is your parting words of wisdom as somebody who's been in this business, who is extremely accomplished, and the lawyer in you, the maverick inside of you? Give us a parting word here. What is your perception of 1031 exchanges, and what words of wisdom can we leave our audience with here?
Just every day, more and more people learn about it, and don't miss the boat. And they're here to stay again. Every 5 to 10 years, Congress tries to take it away, and it's so easy to show them why that would be counterproductive. Everybody wins, even the government. That's what's hilarious about this. So yeah, please let me know anytime you have any questions about 1031s. I'm just like Mike. I love what I do. Otherwise, I'd do something else after 27 and a half years. So just please reach out to me, and I can't wait to share my information with you.
Will do. We really appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much. Let's give them a good big wave here. Thank you very much. Please feel free to reach out. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
You got it.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.